All right, we have our Rockler rip fence fixtures, whatever. But anyways, we tried yesterday and we had some issues, mostly operator and equipment malfunctions. So let's try another piece today. So in this setup with that board and my table saw, that's like the big issue is my table saw is just a cheap Kmart special. Fence is like maxed out over there. So, the most I get here, I'm going to be able to do like a 4-inch board maybe. And actually probably a little less because I got half. So I could probably do, in this setup with this board, I can do like a 3.5 inch. Which is okay. But that's not what I have width-wise to do. Now, if I took these and put them all the way at this end and use the clamp to clamp down to the board, get rid of this bracket, then the board would sit up on top, be clamped down, and this is 3 and a bit, right? So that's 10 minus 3. So the maximum I could do would be I guess that's 3 is to there. So, maximum I can do is like a 7-inch board on this table saw if I rearrange these. These are the boards that I want to finish up right now. So right now I have a 7.5, I have a 9.5, I have an 11-inch board. This one over here is 8.5. This one's like 8.5. So none of these boards will fit on this table saw with the Rockler fixture as it is. Here in the garage is my dad's old table saw, right? And he built this extension so the fence will go out, to about there. So I could get probably like let's call it a 13-inch cut minus 3. So I could do like about a 10-inch board out here. But this has suffered some trauma. So the table is actually tilted on this end, so it rocks. So then you get an uneven cut and it binds. So I would have to fix this, which I probably need to do at some point. But I do want to get those boards cut up and get them back to my son so he can start using them. So, one of the consideration is, fix this up, put on a different extension, maybe a little bit more, maybe a better guide. And I could probably even get away with, I'd get away with clamping it. I would like to use this saw. It was my dad's, he died 20 years ago. He'd be like probably 104 now if he was still alive. So there's a lot of sentimental value to it. And the other thing is that this is in the garage because it's too big and too effing heavy to be in the basement. But being in the garage, like my basement, I can only do a 6-foot length board, right? 6 foot in, 6 foot out. But in the garage, like I got a lot of room. I can just open the garage door and cut whatever length lumber I want. So instead of modifying my one in the basement, which I really like, to leave it like it is because it's weighs like 25 pounds. I can just lift it, put it in my car, take it to my son's house. I can move it on a shelf, put my router table down. So I don't want to modify my basement one. I like to leave it nice and light and portable. But this one's going to be in the garage. It's not going anywhere else. So maybe I will work on getting some extensions and maybe an outfeed somehow. But it still needs a kind of like store there because my car and my wife's car needs to park in here, right? So I would opt to modify this a little bit so that I could use those Rockler clamps, put a right table and maybe have some type of outfeed table so that I could wheel this out and use it. So, you know, this thing probably, it sat in my brother's shed for, I don't know, 15 years. Yeah, maybe 20, who knows. And then he wanted to get rid of it, so I brought it here. I thought maybe one of my sons would want it, but, you know, I feel, I'm just worried that, you know, that's an open belt, you know, I wouldn't want my sons to get hurt. So I would still like to use it. And now that I have a lot of sawmill boards that are longer, like 8 foot, 10 foot, and I got a planer, so I like to make them into shelving boards. I may spend the money to do some upgrades for this, but not today. So I think what we're gonna do, because I want to get those done today, is I'm using my skill saw and a board with a good edge. Clamp it down and run my saw and clean those ends up, clean the edges and clean the ends, and those boards will be ready to return to my son. Okay, put a screw up there, and we're going to store our fixture there until we can get our table saw modified. And this is my extension, table saw rip fence extension. We're just going to hang it right next to it, and we're going to move this off and get set up to use my skill saw. And I like the flexibility of just having that saw so light and portable. I just take it off and I set that table up to do other cuts. I guess my point is that's why I don't want to modify that saw and put big extensions and make it so cumbersome that I can't move it, because I don't have like a lot of room to put another whole setup in here. Well, what the fuck went wrong with this? Look at this. Look at a fucking 1/8 inch gap in there. This is just like a effed up day for cutting wood. This is like effing aggravating. What the fuck? Right? I think what's happening, if I just do the top looks like it is straight. I think my saw was straight there. The saw was tipped this way here. So this is just a fucking mess. Alright, I've used that saw to saw a lot in my 60 years, well, let's say 40 years that I've lived here. I've never seen shit like this before. But we're stopping today. This is therapy. Therapy says, move on to something else. This ain't working. I plan to fix this mess. I put an edge here. I'm just gonna run a router with a trim bit and just clean this up. And we're gonna call this a day. I'm not even gonna do that today. It's gonna be some other day. I guess that's one reason, an incentive to get the table saw modified so that I can get this on a flat tabletop and the saw will run true and won't be crooked like this. Yeah, it's just effing weird. You know, I might just take these out on the sawmill, put this edge down, get it lined up over here for where I want, and just use the sawmill to make a cut, bring it in, and use the router with the edge trim bit and just clean up the last 1/16 of an inch. Because if that skill saw is not going to do it, my table saw is not going to do it.